Ladies and gentlemen, pause for a moment and consider this simple truth. The world does not decide your value, you do. Yet many people walk through life waiting for permission to be respected, waiting for applause, waiting for someone else to confirm what they are worth. And in that waiting, they quietly surrender their power. It is not something you demand, it is something you embody. Respect is not something you chase, it is something that follows when your inner world is aligned with purpose. When a person knows who they are, when they stand firmly rooted in conviction, faith, and self-awareness, something remarkable happens. The world responds differently. Not because you asked it to, but because it has no other choice. There is a divine order written into life itself. A tree does not shout to be seen, it grows. A river does not argue for its importance, it flows. In the same way, when you honor the gift placed within you, when your actions reflect discipline, integrity, and trust in something greater than yourself, your presence alone begins to speak. People feel it. Opportunities recognize it. Respect naturally gravitates toward it. Too often we measure our worth by opinions, titles, or approval, forgetting that true value is cultivated from within. Faith reminds us that we are not accidents, not afterthoughts, but intentional creations designed with meaning. When you live from that understanding, fear loosens its grip, insecurity fades, and confidence becomes quiet but unshakable. Increasing your value is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing the doubt that hides who you already are. It is about aligning your thoughts with truth, your actions with purpose, and your spirit with trust in the path set before you. When you do that, respect stops being a goal and becomes a reflection of the life you choose to live. Your value is determined by inner conviction, not external validation. And this truth becomes clear the moment you observe how easily people surrender their sense of worth to opinions, trends, and approval. From an early age, many are taught, quietly and consistently, that their value must be earned through praise, agreement, or recognition. Grades, titles, applause, and attention become mirrors through which they try to see themselves. Yet mirrors only reflect what stands before them. They do not create substance. When validation becomes the source of value, identity becomes fragile, shifting with every compliment or criticism. Inner conviction is different. It is the steady awareness of who you are when no one is watching, when no one is applauding, when there is no audience to impress. It is the calm certainty that your life has meaning beyond performance and comparison. This conviction does not arrive from outside. It is cultivated through reflection, faith, discipline, and the courage to listen inwardly rather than outwardly. When a person knows deeply and honestly what they stand for, they stop negotiating their worth with the world. External validation is loud, addictive, and temporary. It lifts you quickly and drops you just as fast. One moment of approval can feel like oxygen, and one moment of rejection can feel like suffocation. Living this way places your emotional and spiritual state in the hands of others, and no one can build lasting value on such unstable ground. Inner conviction, on the other hand, is quiet and enduring. It does not need to announce itself. It simply exists, steady and unshaken, even in silence. Faith plays a powerful role here because faith anchors conviction beyond circumstance. When you believe that your life has been intentionally designed, that your presence carries purpose, you stop asking the world to confirm what has already been established. You begin to move with trust instead of desperation. You speak with clarity instead of seeking agreement. You act from alignment rather than fear of rejection. This is where value begins to rise, not because others notice first, but because you stop doubting yourself. A person with inner conviction does not rush to prove anything. They are not in competition with others, because comparison loses its grip when identity is secure. They can listen without feeling threatened, disagree without becoming defensive, and stand alone without feeling diminished. This steadiness is often mistaken for confidence, but it is deeper than that. Confidence can fluctuate, conviction remains. Confidence reacts, conviction responds. As inner conviction strengthens, behavior changes naturally. Choices become more intentional. Boundaries become clearer. Time is spent with greater care. Words carry weight because they are not spoken for approval. Actions align with principles rather than convenience. Over time, this alignment creates a presence that others instinctively respect, not because it demands respect, but because it reflects self-respect. Value grows when you stop outsourcing your self-image. When praise comes, it is received with gratitude, not dependence. When criticism arrives, it is examined with wisdom, not panic. You learn to accept feedback without surrendering identity. You learn to walk forward even when misunderstood. This is not arrogance. It is grounded humility rooted in self-knowledge. Inner conviction also requires responsibility, because knowing your worth means honoring it through action. It means not betraying yourself for comfort, acceptance, or short-term gain. Each time you act in alignment with your values, conviction deepens. Each time you compromise them for approval, it weakens. Value is built moment by moment through these unseen decisions, shaping a life that stands firm regardless of external noise. Respect is a natural outcome of self-awareness and integrity, not something that can be forced, demanded, or negotiated through words alone. Many people try to command respect by raising their voice, asserting authority, or displaying symbols of status. Yet these efforts often reveal insecurity rather than strength. True respect forms quietly, in the space where a person understands themselves clearly and lives in alignment with that understanding. When there is no confusion about who you are, there is no need to perform or pretend, and that clarity becomes visible to others. Self-awareness begins with honest observation. It is the willingness to see your strengths without exaggeration and your weaknesses without denial. This kind of awareness creates balance. You are neither inflated by praise nor crushed by criticism because you know what is true about you. When someone speaks from that place, their words carry authenticity. There is no hidden agenda, no need to impress, no fear of being exposed. People instinctively sense this transparency, and trust grows where honesty lives. Integrity is the outward expression of that inner clarity. It is consistency between what you think, what you say, and what you do. When your actions align with your values, you become predictable in the best way. Others know where you stand. They know what you will tolerate and what you will not. This consistency creates safety, and safety is one of the foundations of respect. People may not always agree with you, but they learn that you are real, and reality commands attention. Faith strengthens integrity by anchoring behavior to something higher than convenient. When decisions are guided by purpose rather than impulse, you stop adjusting your values to fit the room you are in. You remain the same person in private as you are in public. This wholeness removes the need for masks, and without masks, interactions become grounded and meaningful. Respect emerges not from perfection, but from sincerity and moral courage. A self-aware person listens deeply. They do not interrupt to prove intelligence or dominate conversations to feel important. They understand that listening is not a weakness, but a sign of inner security. This ability to listen without defensiveness creates space for others, and people naturally respond with appreciation. Respect grows when others feel seen, heard, and valued in your presence. Integrity also shows itself in boundaries. When you respect yourself, you do not allow your time, energy, or values to be misused. You say yes with intention and no without guilt. These boundaries communicate self-worth without explanation. Over time, people learn how to approach you, how to speak to you, and how to treat you. Not because you demanded it, but because your behavior taught them what is acceptable. Respect fades quickly when words and actions contradict each other. Promises made and broken, principles spoken and ignored, faith declared and abandoned under pressure all erode credibility. Self-awareness prevents this erosion by keeping you conscious of your choices, while integrity keeps those choices aligned with truth. Together, they form a foundation that does not need defending. When self-awareness and integrity work together, respect becomes inevitable. It appears in subtle ways: how people speak to you, how they value your time, how they consider your perspective. It grows quietly, steadily, without force or display. shaped by consistency, humility, and an unshakable alignment between who you are and how you live. To embody purpose instead of demanding recognition is to understand that significance is revealed through being, not through insistence. Many people feel unseen not because they lack value, but because they are focused on being noticed rather than becoming rooted. Recognition is a response, not a requirement, and when it becomes the goal, purpose loses its depth and turns into performance. True purpose does not ask for attention. It expresses itself naturally through action aligned with meaning. Purpose begins as an inner calling, often quiet and easily overlooked in a noisy world. It is not always dramatic or immediately rewarding. It reveals itself through what you feel drawn to protect, build, improve, or serve. When you honor that calling, even in small, unseen ways, you begin to move with intention rather than impatience. There is a difference between wanting to be valued and living in a way that creates value. The first seeks applause, the second creates impact. Faith deepens this understanding by reminding you that purpose is entrusted, not invented. When you believe your life is guided by design rather than accident, you stop rushing to prove relevance. You trust that obedience to purpose, even without recognition, carries its own reward. This trust removes anxiety and replaces it with steadiness. You no longer measure your progress by who notices, but by whether your actions remain true to what you are meant to do. Demanding recognition often leads to compromise. People begin adjusting their message to please, their behavior to fit expectations, their values to gain approval. In doing so, they drift away from purpose while gaining temporary attention. Embodying purpose requires the opposite choice, staying aligned even when the outcome is uncertain, even when the room is quiet, even when others seem to move ahead faster. This alignment creates PTH, and depth always outlasts display. When purpose is embodied, behavior becomes consistent. You show up the same way whether the spotlight is present or not. Effort is not reduced when no one is watching. Standards do not change based on audience. This consistency builds inner authority, and inner authority is felt before it is acknowledged. People may not understand what draws them to your presence, but they sense the stability of someone who is anchored. Recognition, when it comes, arrives differently. It is not chased, it is discovered by others over time. It appears as trust, as influence, as doors opening without force. Because it is not demanded, it does not inflate the ego. Because it is not required, it does not define identity. Purpose remains the source, and recognition becomes a byproduct. There is also freedom in this way of living. When you stop demanding recognition, you are no longer controlled by reactions. Praise does not intoxicate you, and neglect does not discourage you. Your motivation stays intact because it is connected to meaning, not applause. This freedom allows creativity, patience, and resilience to grow. Embodying purpose asks for humility and courage at the same time. Humility to accept that your work may go unnoticed for a season, and courage to continue anyway. Over time, this way of living shapes character, sharpens clarity, and strengthens trust in the unseen process. Purpose lived quietly gains weight, and weight carries influence without ever needing to announce itself. Faith strengthens identity and dissolves insecurity by shifting the center of your life from uncertainty to trust. Insecurity thrives where identity is fragile, and identity becomes fragile when it is built on changing conditions, approval, or outcomes. When faith enters the picture, it offers something stable to stand on, something that does not fluctuate with success or failure. It reminds you that who you are is not up for debate, not decided by trends, and not erased by mistakes. Without faith, many people attempt to define themselves through achievement alone. They believe value must be proven repeatedly, that worth expires the moment performance declines. This creates a quiet anxiety, a constant pressure to keep up, impress, and compete. Faith interrupts this cycle by declaring that your existence itself carries meaning. When identity is rooted in that belief, striving no longer comes from fear of being nothing, but from gratitude for being entrusted with something. Faith also brings perspective. It allows you to see challenges not as threats to your identity, but as invitations to grow. When setbacks occur, insecurity often whispers that you are inadequate or unworthy. Faith responds with a deeper voice, reminding you that difficulty does not cancel purpose. This inner dialogue changes how you move through the world. Instead of shrinking under pressure, you learn to remain present, grounded, and patient, trusting that the process has value, even when the outcome is unclear. Insecurity feeds on comparison. It constantly measures, ranks, and evaluates, convincing you that someone else's progress diminishes your own. Faith loosens the grip of comparison by affirming that each path is intentional and unique. When you believe there is room for everyone to fulfill their calling, jealousy loses its power. You stop racing against others and begin walking in rhythm with your own journey. This creates peace, and peace strengthens identity. Faith also restores authenticity. When you trust that you are guided and supported, you no longer feel compelled to wear masks or imitate others to belong. You can speak honestly, act sincerely, and admit uncertainty without fear of losing worth. This honesty deepens self-respect, and self-respect quiets insecurity. You begin to stand as you are, not as you think you should be. As faith grows, courage follows, not the loud, performative kind, but the steady courage to remain aligned with your values under pressure. Insecurity pushes people to abandon principles for acceptance. Faith empowers you to hold them even when it costs comfort or approval. Each time you choose alignment over approval, identity becomes clearer and stronger. You learn who you are not by avoiding discomfort, but by remaining true within it. Faith also softens the need for control. Insecurity often demands certainty, trying to manage every outcome to protect the ego. Faith invites surrender, not as weakness, but as wisdom. It teaches you that not everything needs to be controlled for you to be secure. This release reduces inner tension and creates space for trust, clarity, and resilience. When identity is shaped by faith, insecurity loses its authority. Doubt may still appear, but it no longer defines you. Fear may still speak, but it no longer leads. What remains is a grounded sense of self, steady and resilient, able to move forward without needing constant reassurance, rooted in trust, guided by purpose, and strengthened from within. Alignment between thoughts, actions, and beliefs builds authority in a way that cannot be imitated or manufactured. Authority does not come from position, volume, or force. It emerges when there is coherence within a person, when what you believe silently guides how you think, and how you think naturally directs how you act. Your presence becomes grounded. There is no internal conflict leaking into your behavior, no contradiction undermining your words, and people sense this harmony even before you speak. Many struggle with authority because their inner world is divided. They believe one thing, think another, and act in ways that oppose both. This division creates hesitation, inconsistency, and self-doubt. When a person does not fully trust themselves, it becomes difficult for others to trust them either. Alignment resolves this fracture by bringing clarity. Decisions become simpler because they are guided by a unified inner compass rather than competing voices. Beliefs form the foundation. They shape what you consider possible, acceptable, and meaningful. When beliefs are rooted in faith and purpose, rather than fear or convenience, they provide stability. Thoughts then begin to follow that foundation. Instead of spiraling into doubt or reaction, the mind becomes disciplined, intentional, and focused. Thoughts aligned with belief stop sabotaging action and start supporting it. Action is where alignment becomes visible. Anyone can speak convincingly for a moment, but consistent action reveals what truly governs a person. When actions reflect stated beliefs, credibility grows. You do not need to explain yourself repeatedly or defend your intentions. Your behavior becomes your evidence. Over time, this consistency creates a quiet authority that commands attention without demanding it. Faith strengthens alignment by offering a higher reference point. When beliefs are anchored in something greater than ego, actions are less likely to shift with pressure. You are not easily swayed by trends, fear, or the need to be liked. This steadiness creates confidence, not the loud kind that seeks recognition, but the calm kind that remains firm under scrutiny. People respond to this stability because it feels reliable and safe. Misalignment often shows up in subtle ways. A person may speak about discipline while avoiding responsibility, or talk about integrity while compromising under stress. These gaps weaken authority even if unnoticed consciously. Alignment closes those gaps. It creates congruence between intention, behavior. When you act in accordance with your values, even in small moments, authority strengthens internally before it is ever recognized externally. Alignment also simplifies communication. Words carry weight when they are backed by lived experience. You speak with clarity because you are not trying to convince yourself as you speak. There is no need for exaggeration or performance. This authenticity allows others to relax and listen. Authority grows not from dominance, but from coherence. Over time, alignment produces self-trust. You know you will act according to what you believe, even when it is inconvenient. This trust removes hesitation and second-guessing. Decisions are made with confidence, not arrogance, because they are rooted in consistency. Others feel this certainty and naturally look to it for direction. True authority is not imposed, it is recognized. It arises from the discipline of aligning inner truth with outer action day after day, choice by choice, creating a presence that feels whole, reliable, and grounded, one that speaks through integrity rather than force. Quiet confidence speaks louder than forced approval because it is rooted in self-assurance rather than dependency. Forced approval seeks permission to exist, constantly scanning the room for affirmation, adjusting tone, posture, and opinion to remain accepted. Quiet confidence does the opposite. It rests in an inner knowing that does not require agreement to remain intact. This difference is felt immediately, even if it is never named. Forced approval is driven by fear, the fear of being excluded, misunderstood, or overlooked. It pushes people to over-explain, overperform, and overpromise. In trying to be seen, they reveal uncertainty. Their energy moves outward, searching for confirmation, and this restless movement creates tension. Quiet confidence, by contrast, is still. It does not rush to fill silence or dominate attention. It allows space, and in that space, presence becomes noticeable. Faith plays a crucial role in cultivating this kind of confidence. When you trust that your worth is established beyond opinion, the need to persuade others of your value diminishes. You no longer feel threatened by disagreement or indifference. Faith anchors identity to something stable, allowing confidence to emerge naturally. This confidence is not loud because it does not need to defend itself. Quiet confidence is expressed through restraint. It shows in the ability to listen without interrupting, to speak without exaggeration, and to act without seeking applause. It allows others to have their views without feeling diminished. This composure communicates strength more effectively than assertion. People are drawn to it because it feels grounded and sincere. Forced approval often mimics confidence, but lacks depth. It may appear charismatic, bold, or assertive, yet beneath it lies anxiety. This anxiety eventually surfaces through inconsistency, defensiveness, or exhaustion. Quiet confidence endures because it is not acting. It is simply being. There is no performance to maintain, no image to protect. Self-respect is the foundation of quiet confidence. When you respect yourself, you do not bargain with your values for acceptance. You do not change your identity to fit every environment. This consistency creates trust, both internally and externally. Others may not always agree with you, but they sense that you are comfortable standing where you stand. Quiet confidence also allows patience. There is no urgency to prove capability or worth. You understand that substance reveals itself over time. This patience prevents reactive decisions and emotional volatility. It creates steadiness in moments of pressure, and steadiness is often interpreted as leadership. In communication, quiet confidence shows up as clarity. Words are chosen carefully, not excessively. Silence is not feared, it is used intentionally. This measured approach gives weight to what is spoken. When someone speaks less but means more, people listen more closely. Over time, quiet confidence shapes how others respond. Respect grows without being demanded. Influence expands without being pushed. Opportunities arise not because you asked for them loudly, but because your presence inspired trust. This kind of confidence does not compete for attention. It becomes a point of calm in a noisy world, a strength that is felt before it is understood. Discipline and consistency elevate personal worth because they transform intention into identity. Many people have goals, values, and beliefs, yet without discipline, these remain ideas rather than realities. Discipline is the daily decision to act in alignment with what matters, even when motivation fades or circumstances resist. Consistency is the quiet repetition of those decisions over time. Together, they create a life that reflects reliability, strength, and self-respect. Personal worth is often misunderstood as something to be declared or defended. In truth, it is demonstrated. Each disciplined action sends a message, first to yourself and then to the world, that your word matters. When you follow through on what you commit to, trust begins to form internally. This self-trust becomes the foundation of confidence. You no longer rely on emotional highs to move forward. You rely on principles. Faith deepens discipline by giving it meaning beyond immediate results. When actions are connected to purpose, discipline stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like stewardship. You are not forcing yourself to act. You are honoring what has been entrusted to you. This shift changes how effort is experienced. Sacrifice becomes intentional rather than resentful, and consistency becomes sustainable rather than exhausting. Consistency removes the drama from progress. Instead of relying on bursts of inspiration, you build momentum through steady action. This steadiness shapes character. You become someone who shows up, regardless of mood or recognition. Over time, this reliability becomes part of your identity. People may not notice every effort, but they feel the cumulative effect of your presence. Discipline also sharpens boundaries. It teaches you to say no to distractions that dilute focus, and yes to actions that reinforce values. These boundaries protect energy and direction. When you manage your time, habits, and attention with care, you communicate self-respect without words. Others respond by valuing your time and contributions more seriously. Inconsistency weakens personal worth because it creates unpredictability. Promises made and abandoned, efforts started and stopped, intentions spoken but not lived, all erode credibility. Discipline corrects this by aligning behavior with intention. Each completed commitment strengthens inner authority. You begin to trust yourself to handle responsibility, and that trust radiates outward. Discipline does not require perfection. It requires honesty and persistence. There will be days of failure and moments of fatigue. Consistency is not about never falling off course, but about returning without excuse. This resilience builds respect because it reflects humility and determination rather than ego. As discipline becomes habitual, decision-making simplifies. You no longer debate whether to act. You act because it aligns with who you are. This clarity reduces mental strain and increases effectiveness. Actions become cleaner, more focused, and more impactful. Over time, discipline and consistency reshape how you see yourself. You no longer define worth by potential or intention, but by lived experience. You know what you are capable of because you have proven it repeatedly through action. This grounded self-image cannot be shaken easily because it is built on evidence rather than hope, forming a quiet strength that stands firm through challenge and change. Living authentically compels the world to respond because authenticity carries a resonance that cannot be ignored. When a person lives in alignment with their true values, thoughts, and faith, there is a natural coherence that others feel before they can explain it. Authenticity removes friction between who you are and how you show up. And this harmony creates a presence that stands out without effort. Many people live reactively, shaping themselves according to expectations, trends, or fear of rejection. In doing so, they dilute their uniqueness and wonder why they feel unseen. Authentic living requires the courage to step away from imitation and comparison. It asks you to listen inwardly, to trust your convictions, and to allow your actions to reflect your true beliefs. This courage is rare, and rarity naturally draws attention. Faith plays a central role in authenticity because it anchors identity beyond opinion. When you believe your life has purpose and meaning, you are less tempted to perform for acceptance. You stop asking who you should be and begin living as who you are. This inner permission creates freedom. Your words become honest, your actions intentional, and your energy grounded. Authenticity also builds clarity. You are not constantly adjusting to fit the room, which allows you to respond rather than react. Decisions become simpler because they are filtered through truth rather than approval. This clarity reduces inner conflict, and inner peace becomes visible externally. People are drawn to those who seem at ease with themselves, not because they are perfect, but because they are real. Living authentically strengthens trust. When others sense that what they see is what they get, walls come down. There is no need to decipher hidden motives or second-guess intentions. This transparency invites connection. Over time, trust turns into respect, and respect turns into influence. Influence gained this way is durable because it is not dependent on image. Authenticity does not mean rigidity. It allows growth, learning, and change without self-betrayal. You can evolve while remaining true to your core values. This balance between flexibility and integrity creates depth. People recognize the difference between someone who adapts with purpose and someone who shifts to survive. Living authentically also attracts the right opportunities. When you stop pretending, you stop chasing what is not meant for you. Your choices begin to reflect alignment rather than ambition alone. This alignment acts like a signal, drawing in people and paths that resonate with who you truly are. What does not align naturally falls away. Challenges still arise, and authenticity does not guarantee ease. It guarantees clarity. When difficulties come, you face them without confusion about who you are or what you stand for. This steadiness under pressure leaves a strong impression. The world responds not to perfection but to coherence and courage. Over time, authentic living creates momentum. Your presence becomes consistent, your message clear, and your actions credible. Without asking for attention, you are noticed. Without demanding respect, it is offered. The world responds because authenticity carries weight, and weight creates movement wherever it stands.